a lot of people are concerned about Islam. I think a lot of people are now very concerned. People who even 5 or 10 years ago would have said, "Oh no, that's racist" or whatever, very concerned now. And historically, it doesn't sort of just stop, does it? It's sort of, if we look at Iran, Lebanon, Afghanistan, what happened there? Are you concerned that's going to happen here?
But in none of those countries did it happen by a few million people coming in through immigration, right? As far as I know.
Perhaps not, no.
No,
but,
so
but
it's a
the
different
main thing is about having enough numbers, and they were sort of promulgated or pushed up by the left in those countries.
You have to flesh the argument about what's this fear that you're talking about?
In Lebanon and Afghanistan and Iran, they had quite secular societies. They were flawed societies, of course, because it was sort of royal family kind of aspect. But the left in those countries formed an alliance with radical Islam and then took over. Then the left were killed. My concern here is, you don't need a huge majority of people from a culture that has a much fiercer tradition than ours and feels stronger about their own culture than we do for them to take over. They don't need a majority for that.
Yeah.
And they can win democratically.
Well, I think they're a very, very long way away from winning democratically. I think it's very important to distinguish between a number of things. I wrote an article about this on my Substack. I don't know if you saw it. About Uzbekistan and Islam. So you can have the philosophical and religious arguments. They're perfectly legitimate arguments. I'm not that interested in them because we're talking at the level of politics here, right? How do you solve a problem is kind of what you're asking me, right? Or do you worry about this issue?
Sure.
So my sense is I've traveled to various Muslim countries in the former Soviet Union and elsewhere. And Muslim countries and Singapore, which is a non-Muslim country, are much better at dealing with the problem of radical Islam than we are.
Yeah.
And the reason is they don't bullshit themselves about radical Islam because they don't have political correctness that has to pretend that Islamists are these brilliant, peace-loving people, because they understand that these are the extremists within their own society. In the same way that, we were talking about it before we started, Hasidic Jews are kind of on the extreme end of Judaism. And there are certainly, I can tell you from personal experience, some Christians who are on the extreme ends of that religion. I'm not saying they're exactly equivalent. I'm not saying Christians are doing suicide bombings left, right, and center, or the Hasidic or whatever. But my point is, Muslim countries generally tend to be able to deal with this problem better, mostly, because they understand these people are extremists and they do what we should be doing with extremists, which is cracking down on them as hard as possible. Right? Now, people will say, well, that's, prejudice against the Muslim community. Or no, I think we should take the Muslim community at their word. Every time there's a terrorist attack that's committed by an Islamist, we are told that most Muslims are peace-loving people who want to be British and integrated and peaceful as much as we do. Okay, I believe that. And we're told that around the world, and this is factually correct, the biggest victims of Islamist extremism are Muslims. That's a fact, because what we've done is we've imported the civil war that's raging within the Islamic world into Britain, between the people who want a caliphate and the people who are actually quite happy with nation states. So we should be very firmly on the side of the moderate Muslims who want to be part of Britain and who do not want to impose their religious worldview on this society. Look, they're more socially conservative than you and I. Given the craziness of the woke left, I don't think people who love family and want to have large families and, think that, having kids out of wedlock, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing in and of itself. I know I'm kind of making a separate point here. But here's what I'm trying to say. If we take the Muslim community at their word, they should be at the very forefront of joining with us in cracking down on Islamist extremism.
Yes, except as Yasmin Mohammed would tell you, or that she believes that an atheist Muslim is a dead Muslim. Or in other words, by speaking out, I think it's more dangerous for Muslims to speak out.
How can you be an atheist Muslim? Sorry, if I'm being...
Somebody who was a Muslim.
Ex-Muslim, okay.
An ex-Muslim basically is a dead Muslim. She has to sort of not publicize where she's going.
But is that happening a lot in Britain? Like people who say, you know what, I'm going to drink some beer. Like I used to gig with a comedian whose whole set was about the fact that he used to be a Muslim and then he discovered bacon. Like he hasn't been killed.
I think okay, bacon is one thing, but coming out and openly criticizing the harsher aspect or the more extreme sides of Islam in this country. I think it's...
But I'm not saying people in the Muslim community need to do that. I'm saying we should take the Muslim community at their word that they, like us, want us to crack down on Muslim extremism, Islamist extremism, as hard as possible. Deport anyone who commits a crime of any kind that's to do with that ideology, who's not a citizen of this country, up to and including stripping new citizens of British citizenship if they do so. We should be a lot harsher. I don't give a fuck about, this person doesn't have, the right to a family life might be infringed. I don't give a fuck. They're a terrorist. Get them out of this country. It's not complicated, right? Build prisons where you separate these people from the rest of the prisoners so they can't indoctrinate other prisoners in the jails. There are lots and lots of things we could... Hizb ut-Tahrir was only banned in Britain. This is an Islamist organization after October 7th. It'd been banned in every Muslim country in the world pretty much for decades. Right? Same with the Muslim Brotherhood, right? Same with the extremist imams. Just get these people out of our country or stop them from doing the extremist shit that they're doing. And stop being afraid of offending the Muslim community. The Muslim community have told us they are interested in peaceful coexistence, and they're interested in getting rid of these Islamists just as we are. Great, let's work together.
I feel like we need to change our culture first, if politics in this sense is downstream of culture. And 13 years ago, Stacey Dooley was out and about going, look at all this. It's terrible what's happening. All these Muslims, all the things. You couldn't have a documentary like that today, I don't think.
You couldn't. But that's because, as I say, the criticism of extremists and Islamists has been positioned as criticism of Muslims. But what we should be saying is, no. We want to work with Muslims in this country to deal with Islamist extremists.
Oh, man. I just haven't seen an appetite. I'd like to see it that Muslim, because we've got, people.
Well, I know what you're going to say, but my argument is if we attempt that and we find that that isn't the case, then we clearly know that the problem isn't the Islamists.
Yeah.
And then we'll not have to worry about that anymore.
Then the problem would be Islam.
Well, the problem would be that there are quite a lot of people in the Muslim community who actually do support these extremists, which we're told they don't.
But we also, I think we know that 30 or 40% want Sharia law.
Is it 30 or 40%?
I think
Are you sure?
I'd have to check it again. I'll put a thing.
I'm not saying it's not true. It seems very high to me. I think you probably find it depends on how the question's asked.
It might be that they sympathize with Sharia law or something like that.
Yeah.
There's a high number. I mean, what I mean is when I was a kid, I was always told, just it's only 0.001% of this, and I don't think that's now. I think people are realizing that's not actually the case. It's not as small as we thought.
Well, my view is the government should be dealing very harshly with people who are Islamists and who want to overthrow the government and democracy and the right of women to walk around dressed the way they, etc. If you are an extremist. And if you have terrorist links, you shouldn't be in this country. Or if you are in this country, you should be in a jail and never coming out of it. Just super harsh. Yeah. And there are places in the world that have dealt with this. I just came back from Uzbekistan. They don't have an Islamist problem. You know why? Because they make life intolerable for extremists. And you know where they go? They go to places where life is easier. Like
here.
Yeah.